Hi guys, how are you?
Hi, sir. I'm okay.
Hi, sir.
Hi,
All right.
sir. Fine.
Good, good. All right. So again, you understand the crisis that we're in, and I call it a crisis. And in no way, shape, or form am I upset with things. Who I'm upset with is really CXC because I think they're unfair, and this is just unfortunate. I'm unable to give you SBA for for an area that I have not yet covered, and and how it is that you know. So it's. I'm just going to ask you. I'm here to support you. I won't throw you out and lead you into the deep, but you will have to commit yourselves to me, to the process, to your other classmates, as we have been working this in groups to get this thing done up. I'm going to keep it for no more than half an hour this just now. As it is just now, I have not even eaten my salad dinner yet because I was up based on the document that I sent you. I was up purging um, some information. There are 3 years that I can't find, and that is going to be a limitation, right? Um, that is going to be a limitation to the research that we just couldn't get that bit of information. As it is just now, I'm not even worried about it. Time is of the essence. I think, however, we are in a good stead because there is clarity in my mind what it is that we're doing, and here goes. I want you to share the stuff with me.
Sir, before you
We
continue, good
go ahead.
afternoon.
Good
Right?
afternoon. Sorry.
For all
Yes, go
those who
ahead.
have not eaten their Sunday dinner. Yeah. Hi. All right. So the limitations, sir. So as you discussed for the persons doing the writing up, so I know that you're
Mhm.
assisting with the data, the persons who are doing the writing up. So you've mentioned a
Mhm.
limitation. Do you want to just expound so that when persons doing the writing
Right
up, they
now, I
can
can get
see
it.
that?
All
Yes.
right. Okay.
So like what
So one of
years
the
we're missing?
it's in the data sheet. So in the Excel sheet. So for the limitation, it's pretty simple. Information for I think it is 2011, 2013, and 20 something, 28, 2019, one of them. I think it's 3 years. It's in the data sheet. Were not accessible. No. So this is what is happening. So the information was gained, was accessed by our assessment services unit, which is really our exam center, right? So I went to exam center. Of course, it was your teacher. Um, your exam center. The exam center was contacted for them to provide the pass rates for these two C6 subjects over a period from 2011 to 2020, and um, and the data set for 3 years could not be found by the ASU for whatever reason, right? Which is okay. There are times we're looking for information and we just don't have the data set. Um, you can even go as far as saying once the data is provided, the analysis could be revisited because the purpose of this study is to inform the institution. Um, and of course, this would be of the findings and whatever the findings are. So it's just that. So this is just going to be one limitation. We're not sure if when we are doing the other stuff, when we are completing the SBA, if we will find other limitations. But for sure, this is one of the limitations because when they look at the data set and we're not purging it, and even if we purge it, they are going to say, but okay, so the students have information for 2010, but no 11, no 14, or no 13, whatever it is. So we need to just say it up front that these are going to be our limitations. the size of the data is small. Mark you, we don't have any control over the 20, over the impetus of the SBAs for the CXC. Because
Sir, we're not hearing.
All right. So I
Sorry,
think we
you're
have.
breaking up. I have to repeat.
So you can see that your mic open, but we're not hearing anything.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, nice. Okay, so we can also speak about the other stuff. As I said before, the limitation is neither here nor there at this point in time. Limitation could be about a one marker. As we go through the research together, I will highlight for you possible limitations so that we can include it in the stuff. My take on the matter, and this is where I want you to work with me. It's vengeance that I'm taking against CXC. I'm in protest. So then we're gonna come together on our work. I will let you know what group members you guys, what group you guys are in, so they can have different plans of meeting times tomorrow, whatever the situation is, to do what it is that you're supposed to be doing. But I've been back on I want to market. The world only get 20 out of 20. I'm going to say I'm going to get CXC. Make them tell me, say, 18 out of 20 they're supposed to get. But I'm not in the process of marking anything. No one, anybody getting 12 and 13 and 14. But if you don't put in the work, I have my credentials to live up to. So I can't give the mark that is not there. But I'm going to ask that you just put your hearts into it, so it is that we can get it done and over. Come next week this time, Rockstone. Come next week this time we'll meet again, because I don't even know. I'm hoping that good sense will prevail, and they will extend the stuff. But anyhow, let us tunnel vision. So in my headspace, what I'm thinking of is, remember we talk about correlation coefficient. There are several things that we can do. And one of the things that I want us to look at, we can compare the performance of males versus females in the performance of the CSEC English and mathematics over a period. And the information we have is over a 7-year period. All right? So we can do the comparison as a whole over the 7-year period. So we can do several things. I gave 3 possible research questions. So we can do that comparison over a 7-year period, the performance of males versus females in CSEC English over a particular period of time. And we do the same thing for mathematics, right? That's one comparison. The other comparison that we can do is to look at the performance of male students versus female students prior to the inclusion of the SBA, and we can look at the comparison of males and female performance after the inclusion of the SBA, right? And then we can make generalizations. We can do some, make some generalizations that the impetus of the SBA increased students' overall performance in CSEC mathematics. However, it did not increase students' performance in CSEC English, or it increased student performance in both math and English, or there is no significant increase or decrease over students' performance in the stuff. We can't make that conclusion yet, because we want to see what the data comes out to be. We have to see what the calculations come out to look like. all right? But the aim is if we can do two sets of calculations, one where we're using a whole set of data, right, without separating the data, without splitting the data, to look at the performance of males versus females. So if you look at what I have here, I put females as X and males as Y, right? Just to be consistent. Males could be X and females could be Y, you know, doesn't matter. But it's just to name the information. So we can look at the data, we can do a comparison of the performance of males versus females, and we can also look at the comparison of males versus females pre-SBA and post-SBA, and then we can make a conclusion from that. I think this is really the basis of what it is that we can do and we need to do is a whole lot of calculations. Here, what is going to happen? I am actually, as I'm speaking with you, I may sound distracted because I'm actually doing the calculations myself. No, you don't have to worry about typing the stuff and including the formulas. Leave that to me, which is what I'm saying to you. You're not alone. You're getting help. So you will have to do the calculation. I'm not doing the calculations for you because remember, you know, all of what we're doing still, you must understand what it is that you're doing because I am not reteaching this for the final exam. So this is also a learning process for you in preparation for the final exam, right? So while you are doing this stuff, just like what I present the lessons at night where I have the solutions done up, I am going to do the solutions and we're going to share the solutions in the class. They can't tell me, say, the students then never type it, they have to prove it, so only never type it, all right? So I'm going to type it very neatly for you so that it can be included in the stuff, but you have to do the calculations on your own. I'm going to do the calculations also, but I want you to be able to do the calculations to make sure that you understand what the calculations will look like. Should in case they decided they want to do a moderation and they post students, all students can say, yes, I actually did the calculations, and you can actually prove to them that you did the calculations prior to the SBA, right? So we want transparency in that regard. And then when I group you know, in order to make the groupings a little bit, okay, so one of the things is because of the time we have, and there are 21 of us, I'm thinking of creating only 3 groups of 7. 6 will have to come to me and say to me, why did I put so many students in one group? So which is why we have to do a whole lot of work, a whole lot of calculations with them to say, and this is going to be your methodology. So in your methodology, you need to say the division of labor. Students were calculated, and we have other students in the group who double check the calculations. Students who source the information from the ASU, etc. That write-up is separate and apart. And if you look at the breakdown of the stuff, you'll see the main grades, number of marks will come from the presentation of the data. You get a whole lot of marks for the presentation of the data. So that data that I sent you in the document, and I put it as table 1, table 2. So we're gonna have a lot, it's a statistics, so we have a lot of tables. So table 1 is going to be as it is with the CXC English and Math, and table 2, whichever one comes first. Table 1, table 2, Math and English. Then we're going to do the calculation that I'm doing is going to do the comparison for the SBA and then as a whole. And then now, where the difference, so that is going to be similar to all the groups. The difference will come in now among group members. I'm giving group members the flexibility to decide which of the graphing representations you want to do. And I'm suggesting that we do 4. You see, because I have so many of you in a group, we have to increase the difficulty level so that I can justify why I put so many of you in the group. So I would say 4, no more than 5, between 4 and 5 different group graphing needs. You can do the stem and leaf, you have the box and whisker, you have a histogram, you have a bar chart, you have pie graph, you have your line graph, the picture graph, I don't use that, whatever it is. So you have different things. So you can either use 4 of those, or if you want to use 5, I have no problem, right? So not all the groups will necessarily come up with the same graphs. If you do, it's not a problem, but to have a little variation to the three different SBAs or the three different groupings, we can put in a little extra something for something. No, this is it now. So I am doing the calculations, and I wouldn't mind if the calculations are completed tonight. We can all share the answers in the group, and then people can know exactly what it is that we're doing. We don't have to get the groupings of people just yet. Just share the answers in the group, and then we can understand what it is that we're at and where we're at. When we get the data, when we plot the information on and put, we have the data, we find the mean, the mode, the median. We do our box and whisker, or lowest value or highest value. We plot the box and whisker on graph paper, and we have that. We do a histogram or bar chart, so forth and so on. This is all the analysis is going to be now. Figure 2.3, which is a bar graph, which is a box and whisker plot, for argument's sake, that clearly indicates that the median mark of whatever it is, median percentage, the median pass rate of what it is this and that. So your analysis will come from the graph itself. You can say, for example, in 2015 was recorded the highest percentage of students in mathematics compared to English language. And so in the comparison, you will be able to just talk about the data as it is presented. I can't talk about it now. You can't talk about it now because we don't have the information in front of us. So we have to first do the calculation, then do our graphs, the major portion of it. So when we do this stuff, we can go through the explanation. We can go through the analysis. I will read through the analysis and say, oh, when I leave out something, I can either type it or I can send it. We'll get it right now. So come tomorrow, we have to commit ourselves. If you can do the graphs on the computer and put them in a Microsoft Word document, and we discuss it, hooray! And then now we can start the analysis. Once I see that, I can again call a little 5 minutes meeting, and we'll look at an example and we'll start the analysis. And pretty much that's it. There are some layouts. I want you to look at the layout of the SBA. It tells you get a mark for having the title. You get, if the title is concise enough, it is that, and it gives you what the layout is. Let me see if I can find it. As I said before, the most important thing is us first to get the calculation. We get the data, which is the most important stuff. We get the calculation done up, we get the graph done up. Then what is going to be left from us now is just once it is that we do that, then we can't do nothing less than full marks. What is going to be important now is the interpretation of the information that we have. Let me see. What's your the guidelines? So, and we are doing project B. Project B is something that we are actually carrying out. Something we're actually carrying out. Sorry, it's opening for me. What order you? You see me sit on good, but you decide you want to bite me. Sure. All right. So we talk about whole business of promoting self-learning and the whole stuff. You can read through that now. It says here project title. You get 2 marks for that. If the title is a clear statement you get a mark. If the title is concise, you get a mark. So it's 2 marks for the title. Here the plan. All of you use the same title, we must get those 2 marks, right? We must get those 2 marks. All right? Are you hearing me, guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Good. Then no, it says introduction. Rationale for the project is logical. Rationale for the project is somewhat logical. So if you have a rational, explanation of the project, you will get 2 marks. So what is the rationale of the project? I think I included something there for the rationale. But in essence, we want to compare the performance of males and females. All right, here from grass lice is biting me terribly. We want to compare the performance of males and females in the CSET mathematics and English language, and we also want to compare if there's any significant difference in academic performance of students prior to and post SBS. Those are the 2 things that we're looking at, right? And if it is logical, so we can get the 2 marks for those. We've got 4 marks already. Problem or the objective is clearly stated. If it is clearly stated, get 2 marks. If it's only partially stated, is 1 mark. Summary of research methodologies adopted succinctly stated, quantitative or qualitative, right? So you will say in your stuff, which of the 2 we're using, and if it is succinctly stated, meaning say it have no it is exactly precisely clearly stated, we get our 2 marks there, right? So the introduction is 6 marks, but of course you can't do the introduction before you do the research, right? So you have to complete the research, and then after that, from there we do the introduction, because we'll include some stuff from the research into the introduction. Then it says the research methodology. The research methodology is now 19 marks. I wouldn't marks that, right? The research methodology is 19 marks. Let us see how we get those 19 marks now. Research method or design is clearly and logically outlined. If it is only partially, get 1 mark. If it's clearly outlined, you get your 2 marks. The limitation of the research are relevant and comprehensively discussed. So as I was talking to and those are it's 2 marks for the limitation. So if it's only partially discussed, you only get 1 mark. So we have 2 things for the limitations already. The sample size is small. We could have looked at a larger sample size for the pre-SBA. We couldn't look at anything for post-SBA because it only started 2016. So we could look at a larger sample size for the pre-SBA. So that's one limitation. The other limitation is that the data was just not accessible at the time that we requested it. Other limitations may come up when we are doing the research. All right. It says the description of the sampling process, identification of the target population, specification of the sampling frame or otherwise justified, description of sample selection methodology. Okay, so the selection methodology will be, so in that description there is you saying that, how they want to say a letter was written to the assessment services unit, or you want to say that a request was made of our assessment services unit to provide the information over this particular period, for them to do the stuff, etc., of our students. We couldn't go to CXC because of, let them know, couldn't go to CXC because of the pandemic. Something must come up with pandemic here. We couldn't go to CXC because of the pandemic, whatever the situation is. So which is why the assessment services unit was contacted in order to get the stuff. The instrumentation design, selection of instruments, questionnaires. Well, we never use questionnaires. All right, guess what? I have to go inside. These. All right, hold on. Boy, those just let's say rough, right? So it says instrumentation. So we never use questionnaires. Interviews, no. We never did that. Case studies, no. Observation, no. Skills is justified in comparative manner. Selection of instrument, that is questionnaires, interviews, case studies, test measures, observation skills is no. So we never use that, but we have to design the stuff in. And I will come back to you on that one. And after think through that one for you, that instrumentation design. The instrument has relevant items which are clearly articulated and are logically outlined. So we're not doing any interviews of any students. What it is that we're doing is just looking at the results, right? So I will come back to you with that one. So those are 5 marks that we need to think through. I can think through that between now and tomorrow morning, God's willing. And then the data management, data collection process is adequately described. This is how we get the data, and also the data coding technique, transferring item responses into numbers are appropriate and clearly explained. Okay, so that's if you're getting information from students, like on a questionnaire, you don't normally write students' name on it. You put codes, so it becomes anonymous, or it remains anonymous. All right, data entry. Data recording methods are clearly described. Of course, we have the data entry already. We have our data sheet already, so we can explain how it is. The information was presented. The data was presented from the assessment services unit, from the broadsheet from CXC. So we're not going to say that they gave us the Excel file. The information was provided from the broadsheet, and the information was extracted and placed in an Excel document. And then the presentation of findings, display of results, bar graph, pie chart, stem and leaf, box and whisker plot. All right, so it's because them named those 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 4 that we're going to use. So display of results, we use bar graph, we use pie chart, we use stem and leaf, we use box and whisker. I hope now you understand the reason for me having gone through those on Friday before I went through the whole correlation and regression coefficient. Then it says a variety of tables. We don't have to worry about that because we have one table for English, we have one table for maths, we have one table for talk about the general performance of students as a whole. Then we're going to have another table talking about, we're going to have another table talking about pre-SBA, post-SBA. We're going to kill them with table. So guess what? We should be able to get our 3 to 4 marks for that, right? Appropriately used, and figures are appropriately used according to the data type and portray the data accurately and clearly. A variety of tables, graphs, and figures are appropriately used, right? So in addition to that, we're going to have tables, and then we're going to have graphs, right? We're going to have enough graphs. We're going to use 4 different sets of graphs. As a matter of fact, it's going to be 4 different types of graphs, but we may end up with 8 different graphs. One set of graphs to talk about the general performance of students, and another set of graphs looking at the comparison of pre and post SBAs, right? So we have lots of graphs in our stuff. So we should be able to get those 6 marks. Now it says 5 to 6 marks if we have a variety of tables and figures appropriately and used. It says a variety of tables, graphs are appropriately used according to the data. Fairly accurate. So if the data is fairly accurate, you only get between 3 and 4 marks. If it is fully accurate, you get 5 to 6 marks. If you use few tables and graphs, you only get 1 to 2 marks. None of us will get the 1 to 2 marks because we're going to use all 4 different types of something. We can use a computer to generate the information for us. All right. And then the analysis now is going to be about 50 marks. This is a whole lot of stuff, but don't worry about it. Measures of central tendency. Yes, we have to do measures of central tendencies. Why do we need to use measures of central tendencies again? Because we have to present the box and whisker plots. So we're going to show them so we know what we're talking about. We're going to use measures of central tendency, measures of variability, measures of relationship, for example, correlation, regression. Yes, we have that part. Measures of relative position, percentile, score, and t-score. We're not going to use any z-scores and t-score, but we can use percentiles, right? So when you're doing like a graph, not your graph, your pie chart, you can put your pie chart in percentage, right? So right here, so we get the measures of relative positioning. And then measures of dependence, An accurate discussion, which includes calculations and meaningful comparison of the findings, which is what I was explaining earlier, right? Using at least 3 different statistical techniques. Exactly what I was talking about. We can get this full 3 marks. If you only use 2 of the statistical techniques, you're going to get 2 marks. And if you only use 1, a 1 mark, right? So we get 3 marks for the analysis of the tools. It says more than 75% of calculations are accurate. So if more than 75% of the calculations are accurate, you're going to get all 100% of your calculation accurate. You're going to get 2 marks. If it's only between 50 and 75 accurate, you get 1 mark. So right here, so we have the 2 marks already. All right. Interpretation of the results, an excellent interpretation of the results obtained, why they're obtained, and identify trends, patterns, and anomalies. You get 3 to 4 marks. If only an adequate or limited interpretation, you get 1 to 2 marks. I'm not even worried about that for those 4 marks. Recommendation for future development. So this is what I'm saying to you now. So this is where the limitation will come in. So the recommendation of future development, because something like this now is something that will be used to inform the institution for students' academic performance. So because we miss that data, we can say in hindsight, the result, the sample size should be increased. We could look at possibly 10 years or 15 years prior to the inclusion of the SBA, so we can get a truer representation of the students' performance in math and English within the Exeter Community College. And then what we can do now is to say, like, after a 5-year period, we can then go back and do the research just to see if there's any improvement or difference in the trend. So that in itself is not difficult in terms of recommendation for future work. And conclusion, what conclusion can you make? If you recognize that there is a significant difference in the correlation using SBAs, we should say that SBAs are important component to the students' final grade, not only that it carries 20% of the final marks, and we should say that 25 something when we SBA, we should start SBAs from day 1 of the program so that we don't have to rush it. We could say that is not even going to be a plausible something because they can't start day 1 if you don't have the content. So you have to go through the content before you can actually do the SBA. But just for you to say how important these SBAs are, etc., etc. And overall presentation. So if you communicate in a logical way and everything is hunky-dory, you can look at all of those stuff, grammatical correction. Hear me out now. So those of you who know you can write to save a life, don't volunteer to read through the project, right? Let somebody who understands how the language itself to be editor-in-chief, all right? And then your bibliography. It's going to be very important. You're referencing, you must do some referencing, right? Find something about 2 or 3, what you say? In text citing, previous work reference, yeah. Look to see if any online to see if anybody, I can do that. Mrs. Hennington can do that for you guys. Look to see if anybody compares students' academic performance with SBAs, and we can find something about it and include it into that. And that is it. So the SBA is going to be marked out of 4 and 2, 6, 6 and 4, 10, 10 and 4, 14 and 2, 16 and 2, 18, 18 and 3, 21, 21 and 6, 27. 27 and 6, 33, 33 and 2, 35, 35 and 3, 38, 38 and 2, 40, 40 and 2, 42 and 44 and 46 and 48, 49, 50. So the SBA is marked out of 50. Do you think we can get at least 45 out of the 50 guys?
Hopefully.
I don't hear that.
Hopefully, sir.
Hopefully. Hopefully. All right. If there,
So what about
I'm finished. Go
so
ahead.
what about them starting tonight? Is it
No,
possible?
absolutely. Yeah, man. They have the data already, So what I'm going to do for you is you have the data already. I've already sent out. I took a snap of what I'm calculating. As a matter of fact, did anybody do any of the calculation just yet?
Not yet.
Anybody starting? Okay, that's fine. If you didn't start, it's not a problem. So I have started my calculations, looking at the comparison pre and post SBAs. And then I'm going to do the opposite of calculation now, just comparing students' academic performance versus male and female for the stuff, right? So, yes, man, I want to start the stuff from tonight. I want to start the calculation from tonight, and if we can get the graphs done up, it's not a man. But let us keep close to our WhatsApp now, so we can just share information. You notice I don't put you in groups yet because I want each of you. This exercise, though rushed, is also going to be a learning exercise for your examination because I want you all to understand. I don't want any one person to do the calculation and then I'm going to do the exam and can't do the calculation when they are presented to you. So the aim is to get everybody to understand the calculation, then we tie a team, and then I will tell you what is it. The grouping, I have an idea exactly how I'm grouping you guys, but importantly, I just want you to start the calculations. So, for example, what I sent to you was, as I sent in a voice note, I have 3 years as pre SB 11, 12, 22, 25, and 25, 35. You're going to go ahead and do your x squared, y squared, xy, and do your calculation. I have done that. 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 And then we are going to do the same with the calculation for post SBA, that is from 2016 through to 2020. We don't have any information about 2021 just yet. All right. So we're going to do the 31, 36, 34, 44, 38, 40, and 27, 25. I have done that calculation already. All right. And then once we do the calculations, let us share the results in the WhatsApp group, and then we can take it from there. I think we should also begin stages. And then what we're going to do now is look at the calculations as a whole, meaning we're again not separating them, breaking them up between pre and post SBA. We're just going to look at it as a whole, and then now we're going to talk about the academic performance of males versus females. We're using X as females and Y as males. We're going to look generally now at the academic performance of males versus females in CSEC English, academic performance of males versus female in CSEC Mathematics. And then hopefully from there we can draw some conclusion. The man them busy, the man them don't want to do work, the woman them want work, whatever we can draw from it. We're going to come together as a group and we're going to discuss the FA, and then now I put you guys into groups. That's fine? That's fair enough? Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. So you have the data, you have both sets of data. So as I said before, what I sent off to you, if you look in the data in the spreadsheet, you will see where I get the females and the males data. In the first calculation, as I said before, I separated it pre and post SBA. In the second set of calculations, so you have 3 calculations to do. 1, pre-SBA, 2, post-SBA, and 3, everything as a whole. So you have, in the first one, we have 1, 2, 3 beta data. The other one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the other one, we have all of 7. And it is easy when we do that because all we need to do is just to sum the 2 totals. And then, so we don't have to go and do the calculation of all of those again. All right. As I said before, I am doing the calculations as well. So we can share them and just make sure that I don't make no mistake. So we can get, remember that you get marks for 75% of the calculation is accurate to get the 2 marks. When we can get the 2 marks, because we know the calculation is going to be fully correct. Fair enough?
Sir, just a question. I'm seeing where I think Chanel says, no, sir, we were at Carib class. Is that in reference to persons who might have missed yesterday to note what calculations they are supposed to do?
No, there's no Carib class in
Okay.
sorry, for my class on Friday, unless they came on.
No, Saturday.
Saturday. Oh, Saturday.
Yes, Saturday.
Saturday. All right.
She's talking about earlier today.
You're talking about what?
Earlier today.
Oh, no. I mean, if it's earlier today, it's fine. Just look, the data is in the WhatsApp group and the other bits of information in the group. Guys, hear the plan. I want you to share the information in the group. Don't hoard the information because remember, We don't know who is going to be grouping now, and let us just share the calculations so that Shanil or whoever it is,
Okay.
we can all be on the same wavelength. I am by my phone. I will respond. I'm trying to do the well. I'm doing the calculation. I'm gonna type my calculation. As I said before, when I type the results, you will get copies of the type results. So nobody have to worry about sitting and typing the results. What you have to worry about typing would be your explanation, your methodology and support and so on. And as you do that, it's sent to me so I can read and make the corrections and make the suggestions, support and so on. So let us get the calculations first out of the way now, please. And then once I give the go ahead with the calculations based on what I am also doing, we can then get we call it now. We can then start doing the graphs because that working document, you notice the two documents I sent you were PDF because I don't want anybody to interfere with the data. But this is the last one I put in as a Word document because I expect you to know to email yourself with that and start with the write-up from that. All right. So go ahead. Start. Any questions before we go? All right. If there are no questions, can you start your calculations for me, please? I have started mine. I want to finish my calculations and then go ahead and put on the graphs. We'll look at the graphs and then we'll call it a day for that piece and then we'll start the explanation. How I know your timetables will be rough for tomorrow, but if you indicate to me those classes that you have with your lecturers, I could speak with them just to ask them to give you some time so it is that you can channel all the energies. Have you all completed your IAs for pure math? Those are doing pure math?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. But I know I know chemistry, biophysics labs are done. True or false?
Not
Yes,
chemistry.
Well,
Not for
kind of.
Not
chemistry.
chemistry.
No,
Not
sir.
for chem. Yep. All right. So what sessions you have for tomorrow? Any critical sessions for tomorrow?
So we have pure maths module
Module
test tomorrow.
test.
Oh yeah, the module test tomorrow. Okay, yeah, that's kind of figured. All right, so you have the module test tomorrow. What time?
So 1 to 3.
1 to 3. All right. If it is that you can send me the names of the lecturers that you have sessions with outside of the Mr. Rookwood's pure math 1 and Mr. Russell's pure math. Mr. Rookwood's pure math 2 and Mr. Russell's pure math 1 that I know you guys have to do because it's a part of the SBA. If you can speak to your other lecturers, give me information and I can also say to them that I'm begging pardon so it is that we can focus on completing the SBAs tomorrow. Tomorrow is Monday, don't? Right. And then now, when we come to class tomorrow, God's willing, be prepared to be there with me until midnight if needs be. Because come tomorrow morning, I mean, not tomorrow morning, but Tuesday morning, everything's supposed to be done and over. It can be done. It can be done. It will be done. We have to commit ourselves to this. We have to commit ourselves to this, guys. Are we okay?
No.
Yes, kinda. Just drink coffee. That's it.
Well,
Yeah.
and guess what? This too shall pass. Tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, I keep saying tomorrow morning. Tuesday morning when we can let our hair down, maybe I say, sir, it is rough, but yes. And that's the final thing I'm going to say to you. Final thing I'm going to say to you. Majority of you are science students. I was also a student of the Faculty of Pure and Applied Sciences. No, it now turns science and technology. All right, same faculty. It's the most brutal of the faculties at the university. Brutal. And I remember as head of school, head of the math department, when I was putting our timetables together and we recognized that integrated math supposed to be there, and I said, guys, let us put the class after 5 o'clock. But Mr. Shandy, can't do that. The vice principal, Mr. Shandy, I said, let me tell you something. You see, all of you when you're talking to me, we're never in the Faculty of Pure and Applied Sciences. I don't understand. And we now need to give the students an idea, an introduction as to what is to come. Because when I went to UA, I thought everything was hunky-dory. You go to school and you do 2 classes and you finish and you go back home. Lies from the pit of hell. You understand? It's rough, and for those of you who will get into medicine, you will recognize how much rougher it is going to be. Those of you who get into the faculty of law and the faculty of engineering will recognize how much more difficult it's going to be. And finally, for those of you who will not get into any of those special areas, but will have to do your first year in science and tech, and if you choose chemistry, bio, and physics to do, you are going to have 3 sets of labs every single week. And if you do chemistry, you're going to have 6 hours of lab every week. The physics and bio, you will have 2 3-hour sessions of labs. Plus, you may have class. You don't have no life. That's the point I'm making. So this is, so you may say that you're not all right now, but trust me, for somebody who survived it, you are going to survive it. I may look back at these days and say, boy, sir, it was rough, but that final stuff. I was saying to my wife that I was complaining that, this is why I took myself out of CXC. When I was doing CXC at math, I had the same challenge. When I was doing CXC math, I had the same challenge. And I said to myself, I cannot believe that I find myself back into CXC. And I said to myself, pretty much not me, said to myself, I heard a soft, still voice that says to me, but you can't be a team lead and it's just your team members going through it. You have to go through it and weigh the waters through with them. And then I just keep my little self quiet. And I said, you know what, Lord, yeah, because my other team members are going to the other integrated math class is going through it. It's going through it. As a matter of fact, I don't think they did your exam the same time you did your exam because they were in a class. All right? So it is rough, but guess what? I'm committing myself to helping you. I'm committing myself to helping you. Mrs. Henningham is there to help you to proofread and to make sure that things are fine and everything. Just put in your 2 cents. I beg of you. See the laserman writers that some of you have? Remember, if I find out that students are not contributing to their groups, that's why I don't put in groups yet, Those persons who I know, if I ask Mary Jane, I'm putting in groups with John Brown and Mary Ashley. Sir, Mary Ashley did nothing, no problem. Mary Ashley went to a group with students who did nothing. And those students are going to get a different grade from the ones who work. I don't want that to happen. I really don't want that to happen. So I'm going to ask you, just pull your weight now. Just pull your weight. Right about now, every job man to do the calculation on their own. If you have problems with the calculation, shout out in the group and people explain the calculation to you. And so once I get the calculation and the graphs out of the way, then I'm going to put you guys in a group so they can start on the individual group analysis. Right? Please answer. Are we
Sir,
okay now? Yes, please. Go ahead, please.
thank you for that explanation. Patrine is asking, what are the calculations to do? And I believe that is the question I was asking before, if that is what.
What are the calculations?
Yes, what are the calculations to do?
I said it. I did say it. Can anybody say what are the calculations that we're supposed to be doing, please? And nobody understands what calculations to do?
SBA, post SBA, to most X, Y squared and X, yeah.
X squared, Y squared.
Very good. Yeah,
Hold
but
on.
the Y square is going to be the Y square is going to be used for the correlation.
Okay. So
I said X squared and XY.
All right, sorry. 2 minutes. Muffled and 2 minutes coming in at the same time. Who is speaking? I hear Natty.
So I was asking if it was just X squared and XY.
No, man, remember now, look back at the notes in the group. So you have X and Y, you have to find X squared, you have to find XY. But remember, it's not just the least squared regression that you want. We're going to go through the correlation coefficient now. So it is important at this point that we also find Y squared. Good question. But remember, when you're doing the least squared regression, which is y equals mx plus b, the least squared regression is just the x squared and the xy. But the y squared is going to be needed for Carl Pearson's moment correlation coefficient. So just do the y squared from now. Got me? Talk to me now, yes or no?
So
Yes, sir.
basically, sir, sir,
Sir.
this is in relation to what was presented on Saturday.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Right,
sir.
so
And I
Yes, ma'am.
wasn't there. So, sir, I'm asking if it's the notes that is in the group. Is that
Yes,
what
honey
we're
bunches.
following?
Yes, honey bunches. Yes. Yes.
right, and that also
But-
relates to Patrine's question.
Right.
So you can
Right.
note that.
Yeah. Right. But I'm coming to you, Matthew. I hear you trying to come in, Papa. But remember now, when you look at the notes in the group from Saturday's class, you would recognize that when I was doing the least squared regression, I did not include y squared. Why did I not include y squared? Because y squared is not needed to calculate the least squared. But when you're calculating the Carl Pearson moment correlation now, the y squared is going to be important. So I'm suggesting that you just calculate y squared from now. If not, you have to go find a really unnecessary table to put in for that. So just do the y squared now. Start it and then drop it in the group, and then I can drop I have an answer that I can drop in the group already now, but I don't want to do that until I see what you guys put in. Yes, Matthew, go ahead.
Sir, may I ask for the least square something too?
It's in the group. It's in the group. Look at the notes in the group. It's in the group. N, the summation of x, y minus the summation of x times the summation of y.
You can't talk
all
about
over
the note of fleet. May I ask if we do the calculation for the something that may do least square?
Okay. I think this is anxiety because you are asking me, not just you, Matthew, but the class asking me questions that I've already explained. Yes. Yes. What we learned on Saturday is what we are doing for these calculations now. Yes. Look at the handout. That's why I sent it off immediately after class on Saturday. Yes. The handout post number 6 is what we're using for these calculations now. Least squared and Carl Pearson's calculation. Yes. Yes. All right. Can we start from it, please? If you need to get something to eat, start. There's something very interesting in one of the answers that I get, and I'm just waiting for you to talk to me thereafter. All right, guys? If you have any difficulties, drop it in the group.
Okay.
Okay,
Bless your
sir.
heart. Take care. Yeah, man, take care. Mhm. It's not even safe to press on it.